All right, everybody. We're going to do this monthly review again. Of course, we've only done this once, and I did it last month after the last distribution announcement. And then I went in to do a more detailed review later. I know it's been a couple of days. Of course, I've been sick also. I've had this ready, and of course, like me and always, I'm adjusting and making more changes to it. But we'll just sort of look at the distributions here with our color scales and everything else, and look at our averages, and we'll look at the percentages, and then we'll go over our what we look at as far as our highest average ETFs, and then we also look at then the total return, and we'll look at the highest and lowest there. So I've skipped the first part so we could do the last time we did something at the beginning. We just looked at our highest payouts, the average and stuff up front, and then we did the total return at the back. Just because that's how my spreadsheet is, and I would go left to right, but I'm going to try to group them together this time. And just know, which I'm sure you already know if you've clicked on this video, that this is going to be a long video because we will be going over all 19 of these. And we'll be looking at it a few different ways. And then we'll be looking at those total returns and stuff. So, but here, I'm sure most of you haven't seen these videos. As I think I've doubled subscribers since then. And I do appreciate it. In fact, with me saying that, I never ask because I never remember. And I keep telling myself I'm just going to ask until I get 1,000, and I never do. So if you haven't subscribed, if you watched multiple videos and you continue, I know they'll keep, showing up every now and then if you've watched some, but if you want to, continue to watch them, I'd appreciate it if you just subscribe to the channel and help me hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. But I'd greatly appreciate it. But anyway, so this right here is showing from inception to the month of April, all the distributions. And yes, it's only to the second decimal, but the rest of the data is in there. And then these are color coded by the specific ticker. And obviously, the lowest number is going to be in the red, and the highest number is going to be the darker green, and everything in between for that ETF in this section is going to be shaded a different color. So, for example, if you look at AIYY on the top, the lowest payout was 40 cents. Let me see. So the lowest payout here was 40 cents, and the highest was 135. So of course you have red, green, and then these fell in between it, so they're just shaded different colors. So this we also saw last month. The only difference is now we have the month of April in there. I do have right now the tickers in alphabetical order, so you can see if you want to look down through there for a specific one. But we can look already by looking in the April column. We can see that a lot of these were green or greener versus redder. If we just look over here in the first few months, see how a lot of these are red, and now we're getting more green. Of course, in February, that's a little exception there. We did have some of them that were either the lowest distribution or at their lowest distribution since they've been out, but we also had some that were on the higher end as well. And then you see some, like Tesla, who are green here, and it's mostly just going to red. So essentially, and of course, remember everything in here for Tesla is split adjusted. So we know they didn't pay out $2 up front, right? It would have been $1. These are all split though, otherwise the numbers would look way off. So if we look at this last payout, this is the lowest payout that Tesla has ever paid, split adjusted. I'm not sure here about any others to point out. I know this last payout for which one is this? AMZ. Let's see. AMZ, that's the largest payout for AMZ since inception. And of course, Coney, that's going to be the largest payout for Coney by 10 cents. And then Phoebe, I don't know. But 3 months in a row at that 117, 118, I just don't feel like that's a coincidence. Maybe it is, but it's right there at the high end. We can see JPMO paid its highest ever. And then, of course, Misty paid its first, which was lower than a lot of people expected. NVIDIA, I don't know that it's a coincidence that the last 2 months have been about the same. But I don't know. Well, if we look right here, PayPay, that's the worst payout, and I haven't even looked at these. So this is the first time I'm actually looking at these while I'm looking at them with y'all. I've done the data, but I haven't looked at the data, and that happens a lot of times when I do the videos for y'all because I just don't have time to, which is why I don't tend to trade or buy many anymore because I just don't have the time to, and when I do, I really don't want to look at stocks anymore. But yeah, that's interesting because PayPay is one that, well, I own a lot of these, if not all, but that's one I really like. But it did not do me well this month, did it? But that's most of them looking on, the lowest end of the scale versus the highest end of the scale. And I'm sure if there was one that you was wanting to look at, hopefully you've already seen that at this point. If not, then you can just do a screenshot or you can pause the video. If we go to the next column here, so this is just showing the difference between the last 2 months. So last time I had these as cents. This time I changed it to be percentages because, with all of these starting to go their own ways, right? Before we were mainly around 20, and we still are a lot, but some of these are all the way down to 14. Obviously, we have one split adjusted, and then we have one all the way up to $40. So I think it's about time that I start, when doing comparisons, try to do better with doing percentages. So in fact, I've made it so we can sort these. So if we look in the from March to April there, the ones that, wow. So I'm just looking like, let me do it the other way because that just looks really bad. So let's look at the best one first. So Coney had a 68% increase from the previous month there. 32% for JPMO, which of course we already mentioned both of those. That's their largest payout. 21% for GUI, which was 5 cents. 10% for Nefli, which was 8 cents. AMZ, that was the highest, and it's up 8%, which is 6 cents. And then OARC, it's up 3%, which is about 2 cents. Again, these have more decimals. Then we get into all the negatives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them paid more than, so that means 13 paid less than the previous month. Obviously, the next 3 there, 1 to 2%, it was only about 1 cent, which is, in case you're listening, which is hard to do with my videos. But NVIDIA, Phoebe, and Squee, they were all down 1 cent. MSFO was down 3 cents, which was 4%. Apple was down 8%, which is 4 cents. And then we have Dizzo down 12%, Zomo down 15%, Tesla down 16%, AMD down 19%, Murni down 26%, AIYY down 32%, and PayPay down 36%. And then, of course, I just deleted the part for Misty because Misty only has one payout there. So it's interesting. We did have quite a bit of green there in the April column, but yeah, the majority of them paid less than the previous month. Now, if we look at the last dividend to their average, and so I have that over here if you want to see it. Yeah, we'll just pull this data in. So if you want it, you can also see all of this together. So here, just to explain, in column AD, this is a sum of all the dividends or distributions that have been paid out, and then the number of months. This is how many months of distributions there have been. So then we have the average distribution, and then of course the lowest payout in the next one, and then the highest payout, and then the percentages of the lowest and highest distributions there. So I have all that data here, but as far as this last dividend to the average, so we can see here Coney's average was $1.85, and so it paid out $2.79, so it was up 51% to the average. JPMO was up 75% to its average. Hold on, let me sort this. I forget that I can sort these. I've pulled these out from my original spreadsheet, so sorting isn't an issue here. So NVIDIA, to its average is only $1.13, so it's up 131% to its average. JPMO 75%, Coney 51%, Phoebe 48%, Dizzo 28%. I'm losing where I'm looking here. AMZ 28%, MSFO and AMZ 24%. And then Nephle is above its average by 12% for this last payout. Then everybody else is in the negative when comparing their April payout to their average. So Apple is down 3%, AMD down 6%, GUI down 7%, OART down 7%, Zomo's down 14%, AIYY down 18%, PayPay down 21%, Murni down 29%, Squee down 35%, and Tesla down 49%. So anyway, it's just another way of looking at data. So if you even care about that part, you may not. I just find it interesting. So now this is the same thing as we saw over there, with the exception of this is their yield versus the dollar amount. So the dollar amount, right, that's just based on what was paid. This would be paid on what was paid and what the stock price was at that time. And so that's just here. We did not, I don't think I had this there last month, so this would be new. If any of y'all are interested in taking a look at this. And then I deleted Misty again just to not skew the colors. Well, I did that on the other one, so I guess technically here I could put this one in and it wouldn't hurt anything. I don't know if this one's... Okay, I couldn't remember if this one was pasted values, if I had the formula there. I still say we see a lot of reds more to the left than the right. So just sorry if you were looking. But back here, you see February. We have a few in March and April and whatever, looking at those. But when we look at percentages here, there's only like maybe 2 reddish ones, and that's this 29 and 15 in April. We might have had 119 and a 54 there. A little pinkish in March, but mostly these are yellow and green in these 2 months, and hopefully we could stay that way going forward. But it just give you an idea of where those percentages fall, where those yields fall. So anyway, we will move on. Okay, and so this is where I'm going to go back and we're going to hide these, and we'll talk about this front a little bit. So again, this is what you saw first last time in the video. And basically column B is just what the current stock price is, and C is how much the average monthly is, which we had already seen down on the right. We were just looking at. Then D would be the average monthly percentage. Of course, in Misty, it's only 1 month. And then we have the average annual, if you made that into dollars, right, 12 months, and the average for the annual. Now, please note this average annual and the percentage there isn't the percentage from this last month. I think last time I did this, I did it on declaration date. So it was before the dividend drop, right, on ex-dividend date. So that's why this says 144% because it's going based off of the current stock price. Also, who knew that Misty was going to drop, what was it, 10, was it 7% or 10%? I don't even know, but I know one of them was 7 and one was 10 because, believe me, I was watching them. Oh, okay, yeah, so Misty dropped over 10% today, 10.3%, in case anybody cared. And actually, Misty dropped 10.92%, so they both dropped. I guess it was 7% at one time. Yeah, but who knew they were going to drop 10% in the day after, ex-dividend date? At least I think it's the day after. Yeah, it is. Sorry, with me being sick this week, I have lost my days, messed up on my days. But yeah, so it dropped $4. So not only did it drop $4 for the distribution, it dropped another $4 just because it's Bitcoin and all these things are volatile. So in the last couple of days, it's dropped $8. All right, I'm sorry. Anyway, just know, again, these are not on the past distribution yield that was just paid out. Just like if you look them up, these averages are not going to be the same either, because if you go out to the websites, it's going to take the last payout and multiply that one by the number. Of course, that's the case here in Misty because it's only had one payout, but I'm averaging all of the payouts and not just the last one. So, and then of course we have the ranking column that is just, the highest ranking one, which isn't totally necessary here since, we could sort it by one of the percentages, but and then that's how these color codes in column A, they match the color codes in G, except for apparently I forgot to make the ones in column A yellow, so they're white. So you see 1 to 5 was green and 6 to 10 was yellow. I used to use this as to help me. It was one way for me to look at, to analyze stuff as far as buying stocks or buying the ETFs. I do not do that anymore. I don't do it necessarily based on the yield and not necessarily based on total return either. I have lots of different ways that I look at things. But of course, I haven't done that in the last month or two that I've been doing YouTube stuff. So, but anyway, so you can see here, obviously, the biggest yields, top 5 are Misty, Tesla, Coney, AIYY, and AMD. Of course, Tesla, it doesn't even count because it might be the average, but it's paying lower and lower every month. So that's like useless information when I look at Tesla, because I know that does me no good if I have one that's just constantly going down. But these are just the numbers, again, the averages. So Misty, Tesla, Coney, AIYY, and AMD. And then 6 through 10 is Murni, NVIDIA, Squee, OARC, and Netflix. Then we go into Phoebe, PayPay, MSFO, Dizzo, AMZ, Apple, GUI, JPMO, and Zomo. Again, strictly based on distributions. Then, and I can't go over anymore because it tells me I don't have any more columns to I'm trying to just pull this over so you can line these up. All right. So now on the end here, we're looking at total return. So if we want to look at total return, so let's go through this. So the number of months, again, is like the other column. It's the number of months that it's paid a distribution. And, sorry, so I guess technically, since these are color-coded with that, I could hide this column. Otherwise, it might get a little confusing there. Okay. So now we can see there with that ticker, column BF is going to match the color codes with BL, with apparently exception of one, probably because it had the color codes before Misty came along, and I don't have all the cells I didn't have enough cells formatted. But we know it's red because it's AIYY. But anyway, if we're looking at total return here, so this would rank them by total return. And then column BE is the number of months that this is paid out a distribution. Of course, ticker and BF. BG, start price. So this was the price on inception day. This is what it opened up at. And then the current price, obviously, is the price as of close today, which is Friday, April 5th. And then the total dividends that have been distributed or will be distributed, obviously, because the last one hasn't paid out yet. And then that gives us the it gives us the return one. It's going to tell us what the difference is, right, between the start and current price and adding the div. So that would be $18.73 for the case of NVIDIA. And it gives us that percentage return there. So if we had invested that $20.01 on day one, to date, we would have received back $18, or we would have been up $18.73 for a total return of 93.6% for NVIDIA. And of course, Misty, that's a new one, right? But we're at 2038 when it opened, and today it closed at 34.29 with that 413 payout, and for a total return of $18.04, which is crazy because NVIDIA's been around 11 months, and Misty has gotten there in 6 weeks to the same total return of that one. So you're looking at 88.5%. So it's going to be the same way all the way down. I'm sure you don't want me to read all of those, but our top 10, NVIDIA, Misty, Coney, Squee, Phoebe, Amazon, or AMZ, MSFO, AMDY, Murney, and Dizzo. And then the remaining 9 are Nepli, JPMO, PayPay, Apply, Zomo, OARC, GUI, Tesla, and AIYY. In fact, we would be in a negative return for GUI, Tesla, and AIYY. And GUI is only about 58 cents a share, but Tesla and AIYY, I mean, they're only $1 apart, so Tesla would be a negative 381, and AIYY is negative 283. Now, of course, I almost guarantee you 99% of us did not buy this on inception day at this price. We didn't all get these divs, and this is not all of our return, but this is just to be able to compare all of them, right? Because I can't do it for everyone. Everybody can do their own calculations to what their rate is, but this is the only way that we can really look at them as a whole, besides just looking at a yield and stuff. But we want to see, what I do want to show here is if, usually what I've noticed, that, well, with some other ETFs, some other comparison workbook I was working before this, mainly on the indexes, the longer the ETF had been around, the more likely it was to have outperformed everybody else. And that's not necessarily the case here, because, see, when you sort this by months, are ones that have been around the longest, which we have OARC and Tesla, they're at the bottom. Of course, we know it's because of Tesla, and OARC has more of Tesla. But then Apple still near the bottom. Of course, NVIDIA is a little different because it's been going up, 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 right? And then our next ones are Phoebe, Amazon, Nestle, and GUI. And Phoebe and Amazon, they're up near the top. So it doesn't really mean just because they've been around longer that they will do better, or vice versa. Um, so, and one thing I don't have on here, I don't know why, I hadn't thought about it till just this second, which is comparing the prices between the underlying and the ETF, which actually I do have that workbook, but it's massive, and I haven't. And actually, no, I don't want to use this one because, well, let me just see real quick. No, I have the comparisons by like day and stuff, like day by day, but I also have one where it's a different comparison workbook. It's this one. I think I have them in here. Yeah, that was the first one I built, and it sucked. The question is, which one is the other one that I built? Okay, so these are inceptions. Of course, this has curve on it too. If we did inception to now, oh, this isn't going to be, yeah. I do not have, since I haven't done this workbook in a while, I don't have all the distributions updated on this, so this isn't going to help us out any. Alright, sorry about that. I did end up pausing this so I could go and make some changes. So now I think they've appeared on the screen. I just altered the workbook that I already had. And so basically all of these to show since inception, what they started at, where they're at, and the total amount dividends paid. And Misty's just a different color because I hand typed that one in there. All the rest of them come from my spreadsheet, and I just didn't add a line for Misty here. So, and then if you look over here, this is just comparing. This is percentage wise, of course, and like I said, I built this for a different purpose, but I think I started it for this purpose, and then I changed it, and I've made it something totally different that I've still yet to share. But so you can see here whether the price, whether it's gone up or down, and that would include the dividends for the underlying there. For the ETF in this column. And then in this column, of course, is the underlined. So, it's AI or AMD or Amazon and so on. And then we have the NASDAQ, S&P, and the Russell. And it's basically saying who did better over that time frame. Of course, not everybody's looking for, who's doing better, who's got better capital or whatever. Everybody's looking at these for different reasons. But I'm just using this because I already had it. But you can look and see that AIYY, the ETF, is down 15% since inception, and the underlying AI is down 14%. So those are close. And if you look at, AMDY and, hold on. So that means we're missing one, because that one should not be there. So I'm missing a ticker. Well, it's not telling me. Okay, I verified they are all there. I'm going to zoom back out. All right, so if we're looking here, back to this, AMD, AMZ have outperformed, AMD and Amazon have outperformed the ETF along with the indexes there. But we can see for Apple, if we look at this, Apple has done better than Apple has, and I'm guessing that's because of the recent downturn it's taken. Of course, if you look at the NASDAQ and S&P and even the Russell, those have all outperformed Apple. And then if we look at Coney, obviously Coney has done more than 2 times better. Coin has done more than 2 times better than Coney has, but both of them have done better than the NASDAQ, than the indexes. For Dizzo, let's see, Disney's done better than the ETF. Disney's done better than Dizzo, the ETF, and then the indexes have lagged. Phoebe, the underlying is done better at 67%, the ETF's at 41%, and then the indexes are a lot lower. Now GUI, the underlines went in was 17%, but GUI is negative 3%, so it's actually the worst out of the 5, out of the indexes here and the underlying. JPMO, the underline's at 36%, the ETF's at 17%, but so does it show the NASDAQ as well, with the other two lagging. Murni, so Moderna, the underlying here, 31%, and then it looks like 23% for the ETF, S&P, and Russell, and then the NASDAQ being 24%. But so that's actually pretty good if the ETF is in line with the indexes. MSFO. So let's see. MSFO, the underline's 32%, while the ETF is 30%. The color code's probably messed up there, I'm assuming, because I'm trying to figure out, possibly added with the one below it. Yeah, because I just added Misty, so that makes sense. So those two lines are being color coded together. Sorry about that, I didn't notice that. Let me see if I can, nope, I just wanted to fill in one. So undo, I wanted to fill in, there we go, for some reason, the whole thing. Alright, that way I'll remember to look at that. But obviously, if we look, well, I guess not obviously, but look at Misty. It shows that ETF is up 89%. Alright, that's what I get for trying to quickly do something. I copied MSFO to make Misty, and when I did that, I didn't change everything. Well, look at that. Alright. So I fixed the color code, and then I fixed this because it had MSFT as the underlying versus MSTR. So as you can see here, MicroStrategy is up 110%, while the Misty's up 89%. And of course, the indexes are only 2 to 3% because we're just talking about maybe the last 3 weeks, and of course, the indexes have tanked this week some. If we look at Netflix, it's up 44% since Netflix's inception, or Netflix, the underlying, is up 44%, and Netflix, the ETF, is up 22%, and both of those have done better than the indexes. I do apologize if I've said one of these wrong, but I'm reading the underlying column, and then I'm reading the ETF on the side, but I'm meaning to say the underlying. So on the next one for NVIDIA, for the underlying, it's up 205%, while NVIDIA, the ETF, is up 94%. Of course, both have done better than the indexes. OARC, looks like it would have been better to do the NASDAQ for this one. But, the underlying still is second out of all of those, but the ETF itself is down the most. But I guess it is better than a negative there, because we have a few of these that have been negative since inception. And then if we look at PayPay, the underlying is only up 12%. The ETF is right behind it at 11%, but the indexes, all of them have done better. All right, if we go to SQUE, the underlying, which is block, is up 67%, and the ETF is up 43%, which is still, both of them are still better than the NASDAQ, or the indexes here, but obviously the underlying is better. Tesla is down 5%, which is crazy because Tesla's inception was a year and a half ago, so that means Tesla is worth less than it was, worth less now than it was a year and a half ago. But yeah, so Tesla itself is down 34%. Of course, the NASDAQ is up 45%. And then if we look at Zomo, the indexes have done better, or most of them. The underlying is up 9%, while Zomo is up 2%. But remember, this data is as of the inception date of the ETF, right? So in order to compare it, be able to compare it, all of these dates, all of the data used here is as of that same exact inception date. Of course, we could always do the same thing and just do it by 2 month if you wanted something like this. And like I said, I didn't even show this last time. So if you like seeing this since inception, or if you prefer to see it, just the last month or whatever, y'all just let me know, and then I can change this up a little bit and move this to the other workbook so I'll have it for the monthly reviews. All right. So I think I've paused this video more than any other video I've ever made. But because I know I have this stuff, right? And it's just a matter of taking a few minutes to do something. Again, I just need y'all to tell me, though, for sure, if y'all like these or not, to know whether I show them again or clean them up for future use. But again, this one was inception of all of these. This one right here, I did it for the dates from ex-dividend date to ex-dividend date. So, again, it has the same data. The difference is it's just not from inception, and it's from the ex-dividend dates. So if I just pull it over here so you could see what we were looking at before, we can see here that in the last month, wow, both AIYY and AMDY, both of those have done really bad in this past month. What is it? From March 6th to April 4th. But, so in this case, because those did go down so bad, the ETFs actually did better. Of course, the indexes did better than both of them. And if we look at Amazon and AMZ, the ETF did better by 1%, while the underlying was at 3%. And Apple did better. The ETF did better than the underlying by 1%. And Coney did better than the underlying. So in those first 5, the ETFs did better than the underlying. Now, of course, we'll get into the ones where the underlying did better. So Dizzo, Phoebe, GUI, JPMO, and Murney. And then it looks like MSFO, they were both 4%, but it looks like looking at the color, MSFO did slightly better. And then Misty did better. It was at 52%, while the underlying was at 42%. Nephle, 6%, underlying 2%. And then we get into NVIDIA, both of them look like they're around negative 2%, but it looks like the ETF did do better. However, if we look at the we look at the indexes, they did better overall. Let's say PayPal did better by 1% versus the ETF. And for SQUE, it did better than Block by roughly 5%. In fact, it did better than the indexes also. And then, of course, Tesla, the ETF actually did better than Tesla, the underlying. Of course, indexes are better. And then Zomo here, so the underlying Exxon was better than the ETF. I know I didn't mention the indexes on all of them, but you can see here who won out. And just looking over on the right, it looks like a third of it was the underlying, a third was the ETF, and a third was the S&P. So, yeah, and of course in these columns they're all going to be the same percentage because we're looking at a very specific time frame versus different start dates and stuff all over the place. But anyway, let me know what y'all think. Hopefully you made it this far, and if you did, hopefully what you saw at the end was worth staying on this long for. I don't know how long the video's been since I've probably paused it 5 or so times here. Now, I will say there have been a lot of questions this past month, and I started to say stuff, but I didn't, and I wondered if maybe y'all would want to see something like this video that I've done, maybe bi-monthly, or is monthly, good enough, or is there some data within this video that you would like to see during the weekly video? It doesn't matter. Y'all just let me know because, I'm here. I'm just trying to provide data and things that y'all would like to see. I have lots of data out here, lots of things built. I just don't always show all of it. And then, of course, I can always build things, even though it may take me a little bit of time. But I do want to make sure that what I'm showing you is worth your while. But anyway, I hope y'all have a great weekend. If I can, in the morning, get up and not be so sick. It looks like I might be going to drill. We'll see how it goes. I almost didn't make it through this video with my voice, but anyway, y'all have a great weekend.